Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure?
It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. It is cold again here in the office. I thought I was done with the cold weather down here in Alabama, but that has not been the case at all. I had to go get my sweater again. Had to get out the heater again. So we are warming up in here. And, well, it's quite cool. But hopefully everything is great where you are. I was working on some great stuff last night. I'm looking forward to a lot of things coming up. I got a meeting about the Rapidvania scripts today. Brianna and I will be talking tomorrow night on Table Talk at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. We will be talking about the Children of Hurin. We have been reading the Children of Hurin. I've been reading it again. It's been a long time since I've read that book, and I had forgotten how much I enjoyed it. So we're going to be talking about story structure and corruption and such things like that tomorrow. So at 7:30 p.m. Central Time for the Children of Hurin. So if you want to be part of that conversation, please know that's coming up. So we got lots of people in here. We're going to be talking about the hardcore mode for Dungeons and Dragons 5e today. Yesterday, we had a fantastic conversation about that. We got about halfway through it. I really enjoyed yesterday's conversation. So anybody who's interested in it probably should go back and watch the first part of this episode, maybe after a first part of this, the coverage of this RPG, if you haven't already seen it, because I thought it was great. Hello, Jason. We've got Jason and Daniel, and Vision is here. Good morning, James. Good morning, Seth Chapman. Zero the Blade is here. Please do hit the like button. Yes, thank you, Vision. Please do hit the like button. And if you found your way here, perhaps by the algorithm or something like that, please do subscribe to the channel. It will be great. It's below freezing where you are. It's not quite below freezing here, but it's close to freezing this morning. It may have been below freezing. It's close to freezing right now. Hello, Sable Phoenix. Turn up the audio. Can I turn up the audio? Ordinarily I do have my microphone up on a book. What happened to my book? Oh, it's sitting over there. Do I need that? Hang on just 1 second. Good day. Hello, Draco. See if moving the microphone up a little bit helps. All right. Hello, everybody. All right, let's go over to the morning messages, and then let's get started with the hard or finish up. Take a look at this hardcore mode again. All right, here we go. The Morning Grind is brought to you by World Anvil. For all the writers out there, World Anvil has all the tools to help you write, organize, present, and publish rich settings with complex characters. Write, world build, and manage your story all in a single platform. Use the code MORNINGGRIND to get 40% off yearly subscriptions. The Morning Grind is also brought to you by the Cool Name RPG. Cool Name is an RPG by veteran game designers that includes a perpetual, irrevocable, royalty-free license for creators. Support its development now on Kickstarter. And thank you for being here with me live on The Morning Grind. And if you're watching on replay, welcome to you as well. It's great to have you here. If you're enjoying The Morning Grind, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It will really help the channel grow, and I would be very thankful. We also have the Ravenkeep Discord server you can join if you would like to be a part of the community. All right, that's what you need to know. Let's get to the main topic. All right. Let's see here. So I do have a list of a bunch of different topics to go over for The Morning Grind that I really want to get to, and all of a sudden there are a whole bunch of them. So this Shadow Dark book, I want to take a look at that. Maybe we should start that tomorrow since they are on Kickstarter. So we'll take a look at the finish taking a look at this today, but then probably I ought to go ahead and put out that make up that thumbnail and stuff so we can take a look at Shadow Dark tomorrow. So lots of stuff going on here. And Black Flag put out more Kobold Press put out more Black Flag stuff, but I haven't even gotten a chance to look at the second Black Flag release. So that's also on the list, but probably we should do Shadow Dark then. Thank you, people, for letting me know. I really appreciate it. Everybody let me know that there was like a quick start guide out or something like that already. I didn't know that. So thank you very much to everyone who let me know that. Okay, let's go ahead and bring up this. Colonel says, do I gold pan? How's the panning in my neck of the woods? I don't gold pan. The only time that I've ever tried that was out in Colorado. So I don't gold pan out here. I don't really know of anybody who does that out here. Sable Phoenix says, I back Shadow Dark. Everything I've seen about it looks great. Well, I have seen people, I really have not gotten into it in any detail. I've seen lots of people on YouTube talk about it. I figured they were like, had gotten reviewer packs or something like that, but I haven't even actually gotten to watch other people's YouTube stuff on it. So maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just dive into it cold and we can talk about it starting tomorrow. Okay, yesterday we were taking a look at this, and like I said, we had some fantastic conversations about these candles here, about spells. I was actually thinking quite a bit about this, the chance to cast spells, because I do in general like rolling to cast. Like if you just ask me, I mean, there are a lot of things you're like, hey, do you want to roll a die to cast, or do you want to just cast spells? I mean, that's one of those things. Also, like, do you want to have active defense, or do you not want to have active defense? I've got what I would say in general, and like, just, oh, well, then if you're just asking, I think I would prefer to roll for spells, and I think I'd prefer to have active defense in a game. But oftentimes when I'm actually going and calculating, or working on some kind of design or something, I realize it's not necessary anyway. Such as with active defense. I still want to talk about that more, but I haven't gotten to. But I was thinking about spells and rolling to cast yesterday. and what makes that good and why that's bad. Because if you're rolling to cast, I want to go back and take a look at what Mark Tassin was doing in Adultus, because I really liked his spell casting system. I was like, oh, well, I would use this much more than the standard 5th edition system. But the roll to cast, I want to see about how he used that, because I was thinking, yeah, you know, the wizard, the fighter has got to swing his sword, and sometimes he misses, and if he misses, he's basically lost a turn. Okay, but the wizard can automatically cast a spell. Let's say you don't have to roll to cast. But sometimes if it's an attack spell, you might miss anyway. But at any rate, you've expended that spell slot. The difference is the wizard has expended a resource, whereas the fighter is expected to be able to just continue swinging the sword next time. So if you add another roll to cast where the wizard might, even if he doesn't lose the spell slot, he's missing a turn. I don't know. It's really got to be balanced well, I think. I was also thinking about this level 10 stuff. To me, with so many things that I do, I really like to know when things are over. When do things end? And, what does it mean to play the game? So I like having a bit of a limit, an easier limit on what does it exactly mean to play this game. Because then you can always play it again. But that's why I think I like one-shots and trying to pack adventure into 2 or 3 hours, because it allows you to play more stuff. Okay, so we'd gotten through all of that. And oh, by the way, also I did take a look at those dice at the 3D20. We might do that later. Rolling 3D20 and taking the middle one. So we had just gotten through all of that, and we were looking at the enemy. So I'm going to page 16 now. Let's see. Well, maybe we'll check it out before. Like what were we talking about not backing things on Kickstarter? I was talking about board games specifically. When I was talking about I haven't backed a board game in a while. Now I have backed a couple of RPGs. So we will see. JDM says, good morning, all. Good morning. The Last Phoenix also says, if enemy succeeded a saving throw, then the wizard also wasted a turn. Yeah. Well, we'll check it out starting, I guess, tomorrow then. And that one, you don't even get to roll. See, that's kind of the difference in the mechanism here, that, okay, if you roll and you miss your roll, you're kind of frustrated that, okay, I burned my spell slot. It didn't work. But if you don't actually roll, it's just kind of ad hoc whether or not you roll, because that's still part of the 5th edition system that hasn't been standardized. There's been a lot that's been standardized about the action resolution mechanic, but spellcasting has not. If you cast the spell, I'm generally of the idea, if you're designing a game, that if you are the one taking action on your turn, you should be the one rolling the dice. If there's dice to be rolled, it should be the person who's taking the action. So that's been standardized across most of 5th edition, except for not in spells. Spells are still ad hoc, and I suppose still done the way they are done, probably due to legacy reasons for many particular spells. Sometimes you roll, sometimes there's no roll required. Sometimes you have to make a roll in order to like hit something or attack something. But other times the target has to make a saving throw. So that's not standardized. And if you don't even make the roll in your turn, but they make their saving throw, yeah, that feels probably even worse than you making a roll and missing it. Flip the saving throw and have the player go against the enemy save. Yeah, see, it would make more sense to me if, hey, Daniel, make more sense if the player is making the roll. The enemy. All right, so let's see what's going on here. Oh, we didn't breathe. Before I start reading, let's breathe. It always makes it easier for me to read a bit more smoothly here. So let's do breath. Everybody got their favorite beverage this morning? I got my favorite beverage. 2 breaths. Deep inhale. Do it with me. Do it with me. It actually will make you feel better. This is the only time during the day that I remember to like actually take a moment to actually think about breathing. So that's why I do it. So also it should be for you too, if you would like, because it will make you feel better. 2 deep breaths, complete a deep inhale, complete exhale, and then take a sip of your favorite favorite beverage this morning. Coffee, whatever it is. Inhale. Yes, much better. Much better. Okay, the enemy. Real challenge rating. This is a bit more radical. Using CR effectively has always been spaghetti in 5e. No more. Hardcore mode prizes a monster's CR above all else besides immunities and abilities. All of its stats can be derived on the fly by knowing its CR. Your monster manual is still critical for details, but stats are solved in one stroke. All monster stats are created thus. Armor class equals 10 plus CR. Hit points equals 10 times CR. Check and attack rolls equals D20 plus CR. XP value equals CR times 200. Well, what do we think about that? That seems like a return to hit dice. We want to look at Knave too. Do I have Knave on this list to look at? If I don't, I should. I've actually been looking at Knave quite a bit. No, it's not on this list. I guess it was too obvious because I've been working with it. Knave. I've been working with Knave, and it uses hit dice a lot, and it's returning to that. So that sounds like a return to hit dice. Everything is based on some level of the monster, but then you also add in immunities and special abilities. Seth says, why add a hardcore mode to 5e? Just go to the mini old school tabletop RPGs or older edition of D&D. I don't have a problem with 5th edition. Sable Phoenix says, the general rule is that if something is affecting the armor class of a target, it's rolled as an attack. If it's bypassing armor class, it's a saving throw from the target. Okay, so there is a method there. If it's affecting the armor class of the target, you roll an attack. If it's bypassing armor class, it's a saving throw from the target. Okay. I mean, that could be. I still think that's going through probably a loop that you don't need to go through, because I've seen a lot of people, and in fact, Knave is doing this, where everything is just assigned a defense score. So you have, which is kind of the direction that I was going with when we were doing Fated Edge, because Fated Edge, there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, lots of people think about different things concurrently, because I was thinking, hey, instead of having the saving throw, what you need is have a defense for all of these different characteristics. I'm not sure if I called it a defense, but you basically need an armor class for each one of the stats. And that way, okay, if you're going to be bypassing, for instance, your physical armor, then you still need to roll against the target's will, for instance, or something like that. Already done with your hot cocoa. I wish I had some hot cocoa. I didn't have a chance to make coffee this morning. Sable Phoenix, that means that technically some traps ought to be an attack roll on the DM's part, like a poison dart or swinging blade, whereas a gas trap should be a saving throw. Let's go over here. It says, this is madness. The ramifications of this method should be instantly apparent to a fielded GM or player. Higher challenge monsters are worth far less XP. Stat diversity is flattened and homogenized. By Bruinor's beard, heresy abounds. In truth, this method will add greatly to the numeric streamlining of play and fit with your lower powered PCs and variable level progression. All of the numbers are shrinking. It's all relative. At any time when creating or playing monsters, a GM should always feel free to boost a stat beyond its formula for special reasons. Always augment a monster among its mookie companions. The CR formulae simply provides your base shortcut and keeps your head in the moment. And we've got Lucifer in hell here. This is very much, I think, what's the least that you can do? I talk about that quite a bit. We can always think about what the most we can possibly do to run a game is. But a much more interesting question is, what's the least that you can possibly do to run a game? And, most of the time, it's probably not going to matter. I've thought about that quite a bit. If you're taking a look at monster statistics, particularly when you're rolling a D20, which we'll talk about, say again here, it's so random, it overwhelms a lot of especially smaller bonuses, even medium range bonuses, and sometimes higher range bonuses too. But if you've got a monster that you're trying to differentiate between stats with, like, one's got a +2, one's a +1, one's a +3, And this other one's +2. This one's a +3. That one's a +1. That's really not a lot of difference. That's really not a lot of difference. And is it worth taking the time to look up to really be sure whether you got a +3 or a +4 or +5? And if it's supposed to be in that range, probably just always rolling with a +4 is probably going to be fine. Is it worth taking the time to actually look up and make sure you have exactly the right bonus? Probably not. I mean, how many times you're going to roll some type of monster? Now, you may roll their attack more than once, but some kind of other check or ability roll, knowing roughly the value of the monster is probably fine. Zero Theory says, after yesterday's review, so this is in response to Seth, I sort of concluded this would be a great way to introduce 5e only players to more OSR ideas without changing rule set. Give them a taste and then hook them. James says, truth be told, this feels more like less like a hardcore mode and more like a streamlined, smoothed out 5e. I mean, these rules have save points, not very hardcore if you ask me. I think they're making hard mode to 5e because it's easy to get into. I remember the old systems being very complicated. Yeah, I've found myself looking at more of the different OSR kinds of things. I mean, 5e does have a much more modern rule set. I do like unified resolution mechanics. Okay, let's take a look at the enemy here. Yeah, many modern systems resorted to just calculating everything from a single value. Here's its CR. Helisanti says, oh, another read-through of Shadow Dark, I see. People were wondering what... we're saying that Runehammer was involved in Shadow Dark or something like that, and so probably adapted some of these ideas. So it'll be interesting to see how close they are. Sable Phoenix says, saving throws are an artifact of the original D&D where a Dragonfire's breath instantly killed anything it hit, but the superheroes were given at least a chance to get out of its way. Helisanti says, yeah, I waffle between attack rolls and saves myself. I find you can introduce old rule sets just fine. Nothing more changes in all editions. Nothing more changes in all editions or tabletop RPGs have problems. That's why everyone homebrews. And why there are so many, right? Helisanti says, if you're well organized, how long does consulting the charts really even take? Are you talking about like monster stats? It depends on how well organized you are, right? Yeah, I mean, maybe if you are ultimately well organized, then maybe not long at all, but you still have to go to a book. The Last Phoenix says that negates clever plays, like knowing which saving throw to target depending on the creature's type. You aren't going to try to beat Quickling on reflex, but Fort is a fair game. Here they are all the same. Oh, talking about moving everything to a CR. So that's checks and attack rolls. Yeah. The enemy. Okay, so monster AI. Choosing what a monster's next action will be is always a pivotal moment for the GM. Not only can it be a time-consuming moment, but one of conflicting motivation. The GM must consider monster tactics and motivations, but not spam a brutal ability or exploit meta-knowledge over the game in tactical space. Knowledge of the overall tactical space. Save time and strain by applying a simple artificial intelligence. I was just sitting here thinking I need to make another note on something. That's why I was looking around. Here are my notes. Oh, now I can't remember what the note was. Oh yeah, I do. Okay. Save time and strain by applying a simple artificial intelligence to your monsters. Simply check the number of different actions on the creature and roll number die. Count from the first action, then downward, and execute the action rolled. Multi-attack, roll 2 or more of the same die and execute the results. The dice are now to blame, and the table can wonder and wail at the outcome, not at your devious sadism. That's actually... So, who was it that brought up yesterday that we were adding more, or talking about the adding additional randomness to the spell casting? And I was saying it seems like in general, this game is adding randomness in. So here's another way in which we're adding in randomness. I'm actually big on monster AI because it seems like the monsters, especially a lot of the monsters, like the general bulk of the monsters, should be able to operate at the table without the game master's intervention. So, Kingdom Death Monster has this. I haven't gotten to play it yet. Gloomhaven has that, of course, in a big way, and that's a big part of that. So I like monster AI. But this, I would want it to have more structure. Like Gloomhaven has more structure than that. It's not just a random whatever it does. It has method. Helsanti says, everything can be pre-made in charts before copied, printed out, arrayed in screen, posters, etc. I remember Second E being pretty full of the charts. Helsanti says, I don't remember the supposed flood of complicated rules getting in the way back in those days. My feeling is the concern for streamlining shouldn't be a problem if things are prepared and organized. But at the same time, I'm running rules as light as much as I can in actual practice. Yeah, it may have been, James, talking about botched spells. Good morning, Stargate Mind. Zero Theory says, as long as you override the AI when it makes logical sense to the environment or story. Yeah, I was hoping more to get more out of that monster AI section. When I saw the monster AI section in the book, I was like, oh, well, I want to take a look at that, but I want more than that. Because if the monsters really did have an AI, and of course the game master can, like with cards or something like that from Gloomhaven, especially if you're going to go to like tactical combat with miniatures, everybody could help play the monsters. Now, the game master can override at any time and play especially the bosses and heroes and things like that on the other side, the heroes on the other side, anyway, and override their AI. But if you have like a bunch of skeletons or a bunch of goblins or something like that, then everybody could potentially help resolve that turn and potentially make it go faster. I'm trying to get things to, another thing I was thinking about is trying to get things to go faster. Because we were talking about if you miss a turn, another thing I was going to bring up. If you're missing a turn because you missed with your sword, or if you miss a turn because you didn't successfully cast your spell, well, you got to think about what type of resources you might have lost if you're talking about spell slots. But you also have to think about the time lost. If turns are coming very, very quickly, then having nothing happen on your turn may not be a big issue. But if it's taking a while to get around the table, then not doing something on your turn really sucks. The environmental monster. No creature is ever more deadly than the environment. It cannot be killed. Oh, no creature is ever more deadly than the environment. It cannot be killed. Contains the battle and abides by no rules. Boulders fall from the ceiling. Save versus death. What monster can dare such power? Be fair and consistent with your hazards, but also brutal. Forcing players to play the space as much or more as the monster opponents is key to a memorable encounter. Hordes. When battling large groups of monsters or foes, which should happen frequently considering the heroic ambitions of your players, avoid chewing up lots of time with rolls and HP tracking by applying the hardcore trick. For each enemy in the horde, add 1 to your D20 attack. For each enemy, also add 1 to your damage outcome. Add 1. It's not add 1 D20 attack. It says add 1 to your D20 attack. So it's like adding 1 to your bonus roll. For each enemy, also add 1 to your damage outcome. On the player side, simply divide player damage by a constant and fell that many enemies at once. 10 damage from a fireball, divide by 2. 5 ghouls are burned to cinders. Adjust your constant for tougher hordes. And yes, a horde of 10 or more may be terribly deadly given equal footing with heroes. Use this knowledge. Does that mean they only attack one player? How many of these people can attack one? I'm not sure if I like that rule. Ulysses Perez, welcome. Good morning. Good morning. Oh my, are we live? Didn't notice. Yes, we are live. I use the environment, excuse me, to change the combat, much like in Mortal Kombat 3, breaking walls, trees, furniture, floor sinking, and much. Such an amazing tool. I agree. I think it does help make more memorable combats. And so I would prefer less combat that are more memorable. Has anybody used this particular horde mechanic? I'm not sure if I like that. The GM stuff. Maybe if somebody is like completely overwhelmed by ghouls, like if somebody trips and falls and they're swarmed by ghouls, well, then instead of trying to make individual attacks by the ghouls, maybe you are attacked by the entire horde. And so that makes sense in such a situation like that. The GM style, verisimilitude. This is a very cool word that means true to the truth or similar to a truth. As a hardcore mode GM, one of your most important duties is to stay true to the adventure material, even when it proves difficult or impossible for players. This can be a paradigm shift for some GMs who are accustomed to adapting content when things go terribly wrong or when prep is insufficient. In hardcore mode, the numbers stand above reproach. It's the player who must adapt, not the content. Players can trust and even celebrate extreme difficulty because it's openly known what they face. This is the gut feeling of verisimilitude. Fixed challenge prestige. When players complete a block of play in hardcore mode, the fixed nature of the challenge should come with a great sense of accomplishment. We've escaped the Red Castle alive, finally. Using Zymor's candle to replay failed encounters will also reinforce this kind of victory prestige. The first few times players hit a hard failure wall will be the toughest for a new hardcore GM. Your instinct will be to offer a new way out. Negotiate new details or even gasp soften stats. You're reading this document for a reason, though. You've come seeking a deeper, more challenging, more exciting RPG experience. That first big failure is your chance to evolve. A GMing style, solving movement. One tremendous barrier to play in any style is finding a solution to character and enemy movement, distance, and access to space. Measuring feet on terrain is tedious and asks too much of maps. Simply asking for a GM ruling on distance feels fickly and rubbery. Close, near, far systems can feel coarse to experienced players. Once again, hardcore mode compresses all of this to a binary state. You are either here or there. Okay, this might be interesting. Because we've talked about yesterday, I really have moved toward using zones, which is how we used to play. So close, near, far, with different zones, I don't mind that. Okay, so let's go to here. Here is a term that applies co-location with other things. You are among these things, be they enemies, objects, or features in an area. You can affect these things directly without ranged ability. To move to other relevant to feature, object, or creature, go there, requires the move action on your turn. This may seem flippantly simple, but it can solve all questions of movement in play. This method is commonly called zones. A zone is a relevant location in play. Fighting with a sword, you'll need to be in the zone the goblins are crouching, while a bow could be fired from another zone. Transitioning between zones, use a standard move action to do so. This method is also ideal for theater of the mind games, as no significant visuals are required to track the action. Okay. Well, to me, that still seems like you have close, near, far. Because if you're close, then I would have said, okay, you are in the zone with the creatures. If you're near, then it's in one zone from you. It's like in an adjacent zone. And if you are far, then it's at least two adjacent zones. So then you would know, if you've got a bow, for instance, if you're trying to throw an axe, you can only throw it to something that's near. If you're trying to hit somebody with a bow, well, they can hit things that are far. And it'll require at least two moves to get far. So, here or there. Carl says, if I recall correctly, you roll to hit and then damage. You roll hit and damage once and then spread it around the party. Oh, are we supposed to be spreading the horde damage? See, that would make more sense because you are supposed to be spreading out. Yeah, see, that would make more sense if all of them are around the party. I can handle that. Okay, you got so many points worth of damage to spread out among you. You could even do it that way. You got so many points of damage to spread out among everybody if you're being swarmed. The Last Phoenix says they all attack that one player who took the last beer from the fridge. Zero Theory, 6th level party surrounded by a 1st level goblin horde. I can see it to avoid all that rolling. So if you wait. So it says up here, zone examples, rock pinnacle. Your players are trying to steal a rock egg. The zones are the nest, the cliff edge, a field of boulders, the ascent route. Ebonfang, the final battle on Magical Spire roof is playing out. The zones are the altar stone, a descending stair, out in the open, the battlements. Spider Burrow, our heroes dare a forgotten burial chamber. The zones include a giant stone coffin, a massive stone door, a tile-adorned nave, a massive webs. GM, the skeleton is rising from the coffin. It has a massive rusty blade and glowing eyes. Cord, me and Elos are at the stone door. I'll rush over to the coffin, ready to attack next round. Hold it there. Elos, I fire a cold arrow from here. Rolls mod 19. My cold arrow does 6 damage and freezes it there. GM, the skeleton cracks with ice, unable to move. Cord, roll your strike. Cord, mod 17. Only 4 damage. Is there any other movement in the room? Yes, you see 3 more skeletons in the nave. They're coming your way. This seems to be like how we always played. Like we played a lot of AD&D like that. Like miniatures are fine. I like miniatures. Obviously, I've been painting a lot of miniatures. But the zone type of thing, I would just put the miniatures in the zone. I guess it wasn't until much, much later that we actually started counting squares. And I kind of don't want to do that right now. My current kind of mode of thinking. Seth Chapman says, I do like the idea of zones. Hardcore to the mega, Neutromancer says. Carl Makes Stuff says, zones are based on landmarks, basically. Yeah, Neutromancer says, zones are great, my favorite type of map play. And also, we've talked about, well, in that vein of what's the least that we can do to actually get a game running. I mean, I've played on virtual tabletops, well, not even virtual tabletops, but also games where we're playing with a map that's on a TV. We built one of the videos I've got on the channel is where we built that TV case for the animated maps that I played with Lou. So every one of those had a map and a grid and things like that. And we were always, moving that with animated maps thing. But it took, of course, it was fantastic. I mean, those were great. They had sound effects and everything like that. But really, that takes a lot to prepare. Especially, I've heard people trying to set up like line of sight and fog of war and stuff like that, and lighting effects inside a virtual tabletop on a map and stuff like that. And that's asking a lot of somebody to set up a game. It's asking a lot of somebody to set up a game. And we've even talked about some people saying that actually my prep time has increased as I'm going to virtual tabletops because everybody's expecting custom tokens for all of the bad guys and all of the lighting and zone of fire and all of that to be plugged in. And I just think that's ridiculous. That's too much. it takes too much time. It can, especially if you're going to be playing a lot. So this is a great way. That way, nobody's expecting the game master to have detailed, particularly animated maps or anything like that of everything that it encounters. See you later, Jason. Exactly. I suppose the landmarks completely removes the need for maps. You're by the door, he's by the coffin. I suppose with the index cards, if you had index cards, you could even put down an index card for each one that kind of had their orientation, and then you put your miniature on that index card, indicating the zone that you're in. That would help. That's, to me, that would be the level of use of miniatures. That way, you still get your miniatures, right? If you want to have one for your character, but that way everybody can also look immediately and see. Okay, those guys are over there in that zone. I'm over here in that zone. Helsanti says zones work well with online games. Never had attention span be such an important issue until I took it online. Colonel Kronk says Professor DM has a zone combat terrain solution. Have to check that out. There we go. Index card. See, it seems like something exactly like the index card RPG would do. Stargate Mind says, all the circular plastic bases that come with miniatures make great spell zones on Chessex maps. The circular plastic bases that come with miniatures make great spell zones on Chessex maps. There's a lot of love for the index card RPG around here. And I got to play that not long ago. I got to play a game of index card RPG. Enjoyed it. Takes a lot to prep and is the definition of stationary. Hopefully the group is okay with meeting in the same place every session. UDT, Ultimate Dungeon Terrain. Let me look that up. Ultimate Dungeon Terrain. Okay. I'll have to watch that. I got it on my watch list now. Now, the Dungeon Pizzas. The Dungeon Pizzas. I want to make one of those. That's kind of the same kind of thing. And if it would add a little bit more to the game, I think would be neat to have some terrain to it. I do want to do a dungeon. I want to make a dungeon. Some dungeon tiles. But I also think I want to do one of those Dungeon Pizzas. It's basically the same kind of thing, I think. Oh, so this is the same thing? Ultimate Dungeon Terrain is the Dungeon Pizza thing? Okay. I have seen that. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I want to make one of those. We'll have to do one of those. Like, I do want a Dungeon Terrain tile set that is based on the Advanced Hero Quest tile set. But then I think some Dungeon Pizzas would be good. Stargate Mind says, a thought about 20 heroes and index cards with a Death Wish dungeon crawl. See who survives. Okay, so a GM-style zones, abstract. So this is more in zones. At first, several questions might assault your 5e brain. But how far is a zone from another zone? How big is a zone in feet? If things are just zones, do maps even matter? Because maps are cool. What about line of sight? What have you done to my game? One of 5e's defining aspects is its concrete treatment of distance. A world measured in feet. So many players and GMs have spent many words telling how many feet a thing is from one another, or how many feet a thing moves. All the descriptive detail, visual depth, and tactical economy of this approach can be achieved by zones, especially if you apply one simple formula to ease into such a new way of seeing the game. 30 feet is a magic number in the world of 5e. So many things seem to be right around that size or distance. This is the base Lego of the D&D world. It can be used to visualize zones. One zone is a 30 by 30 foot area or feature. Now, if you forget all the wiggly details of who moves 25 feet and what spell has a radius of 40 feet, treat those in a single unit of simpler thematic space. A zone is a conceptual summary of what 5e describes in atomic detail. Atomic detail, except for, there are other things that are other games that treat it even more so. Now, actually, we've talked about Hackmaster, and I love the Hackmaster initiative system, and I've actually been trying to figure out, is there some way now, but Hackmaster, I love the Hackmaster initiative system and general combat system. Hackmaster does, however, assume that you are actually moving your characters space by space, square by square, that you are actually moving your miniature around the board, and your game master is doing the same thing. I've been trying to come up with some way to adapt the Hackmaster initiative system to something with zones, because I do love it so much. But I've been thinking about that, but that's been a problem when I've been thinking about the Fated Edge system, is I'm like, well, we can do tactical stuff or we can do the more thematic stuff. And the Fated Edge game, as I'm designing it, is more like the thematic stuff, the theater of the mind kind of thing. But there are some things that I really like about, for instance, the way that Hackmaster runs its initiative and things like that. I'm like, well, I guess you just can't put those two things together. But maybe there is some way that you can, using something like zones. The big thing does seem to be movement. We can work with all of the, I think it will work with all of the actions in a theater of the mind kind of environment. But what it doesn't work well with exactly is the movement, because it's going second by second, and it's assuming that you're running, and every second that goes by, you can move another square and things like that. It's really neat. I really enjoyed it. It was my favorite tactical game to play. Got to play it with the designers at Gen Con. But maybe there's some way to do this, do something similar with zones. Hey, Tomocrat. That would be a fun live stream with Dungeon Pizza. Is gelatinous cube a topping? GM says, the corridor has 3 parts, all in a long linear hollow. The metal door, a long stretch of sparse columns, and an inset grotto at the far end. Kobold eyes can be seen in the grotto. Cord. Can I dash all the way to the kobolds? For Antera? Since these zones are all lined up, that's a double move. Your entire turn to get there. Elros. Cord is charging. Elos, I'll move up just a bit. Is there a column I can hide behind? Absolutely. Okay, I move up and fire an arrow. GM, it's dark down there, and there's a barbarian in the way. Roll with disadvantage. Elos, ha, still got a mod 16, 8 damage. GM, I hear a kobold slump to the floor, followed by a menacing low growl. Cord, uh-oh. Now, that's how we used to always play. Now trim the fat. As you master the zone method and design content with it in mind, you'll find many elements of 5e are ready to be cut. Here is a starting list. Opportunity attacks. Just be rid of them. They cause battles to stick, which reduces dynamism and movement in combat. Ranges. If it's in your encounter, it's in range for magic or spell attacks. Magic missile attacks. Exact speeds. Let go of measuring feet. Fast things outrun their pursuers by description, not inches. Without reading UDT, I came up with a similar solution. Just use 30 feet for everything, Neutromancer says. Ulysses Perez says, I quit initiative rolls entirely. They take too much time. I let them decide who goes first, and they just say, I do, or I ask who goes first for the creatures. Just decide when to act. I'm interested to see exactly what they say about initiative over here. Neutromancer says, Fireball, single zone. If you have smaller zones, you can decide to affect a number of monsters in a zone. For each ally in the zone, you have to affect one less monster. Seems bland and boring for my taste, the Last Phoenix says. No tactics. Well, I don't know that... I think that you can do this in a tactical way. I think that you can add tactics back in here. But I'm not really sure how exactly tactical 5e is anyway. I mean, there are more games. If you're really trying to play a tactical game, if you really want some tactical game stuff where you are moving miniatures around on the table as part of your RPG, I can think of far more tactical games than 5e. Let's see. Okay, GM style. Agreed initiative. Few things slow down the intensity of play like held actions, bonus actions, and other mucking about with turn order and timing. Start by removing these elements from your game for good. Initiative remains an exciting part of play, so employ the hardcore way. We've talked a lot about initiative on this channel. Roll initiative as GM versus all players. If players win, they decide their initiative order and begin. If the GM wins, she goes first, then players decide their initiative and go. When players go first, agreed initiative lets players array marching order, plan coordinated moves, or gain the upper hand against foes before they are detected. Winning the initiative roll should be a major factor in how players approach the scene. When the GM goes first, allow players to use initiative bonuses. When you roll a flat, allow players to use initiative bonuses while you roll a flat d20. Then don't be shy, as GM, to exploit an opportunity to go first. Immediately begin a countdown to larger threats or escalations, and deploy your forces and hazards within the bounds of the narrative. Often a deadly opening move for the GM can be simply moving enemies into the hero's point of arrival. Okay, then we go to the darkness. I don't remember how we used to do initiative. Now, initiative is something that I still want to work on because, like I said, I do like the initiative system from Hackmaster. Side-based initiative, that's been something I don't remember. I don't remember initiative all that much from AD&D. I know that was supposed to have been side-based initiative. And we've looked at that before on the grind, looked at how that does that. But I do remember having weapon speeds. I suppose later when we got to combat and tactics, I remember putting in using the weapon speed to calculate or to be part of your initiative calculation and things like that. But yeah, we've talked about how much I think that the initiative right now, as 5e does it, I don't like at all. Because you do have to, okay, it's intense. We're about to go into battle. Okay, everybody roll initiative. And the D20 overwhelms most of your initiative modifiers anyway, making sure that everybody's basically jumbled into a random order. And you're not redoing that randomness every round. I would understand more, even though it would take more time if you were redoing that randomness every round. But no, you've got to basically generate a random order. And then the game master's got to figure out how to keep track of whose turn it is after everybody else's turn, instead of just going around the table. If you just went around the table, then you wouldn't have that problem. But no, we had to have this very, very fancy initiative tree that you couldn't really see from the other side of the table anyway, with magnets that are sticking to this thing for the game master to organize everything like that. That slows down the start of combat so much to basically have a random order anyway. And that random order is not going to change. So it's not like you might be before the creature and then after the creature and then before the creature and then after that creature. Once you've established that order, you're always going to be before it. So I'm not a fan of the 5th edition initiative system. Need something else. Yeah, in fact, this might as well be fine. You could say, oh, players go around the table. Tomocrat says 5e is tactics light. Zero Theory says, I kind of like me some crunchy initiative rules. I think Cyberpunk and Shadowrun did it for me. I don't know Shadowrun's initiative system. Have to check that out. We need to look at Shadowrun anyway. There's a whole bunch of topics, like I said, to look at. But eventually we'll get to Shadowrun. Ulysses says, initiative rolls take a lot of time and effort to keep doing anything else. I mean, the groups are traveling together. They sleep, heal, buy things, and else. But they can't decide who is first. Neutromancer, if only so many abilities in D&D, in 5e, didn't depend on having a fixed spot in initiative, I would just use popcorn-style initiative. Initially, I thought that was weird, the popcorn-style initiative. But on the other hand, I don't really mind it now. I think that would just be fine. Carl Make Stuff says, weapon speed was because your initiative could change over the course of a fight based on what you were doing. So you declare your action, and then you resolve. It was super clunky, and we rarely used it. Because I also remember, like, spell speeds and things like that. See, I'm not a huge fan of that initiative system either. In theory, I like it. There's a lot of things that I like. Oh, in theory, that you can write out some kind of really neat system with all kinds of modifiers and things like that, but that you don't actually use. Wouldn't want to use. But to me, like the speed of something, Hackmaster does that by making the turns go by much faster. So if it's going to take you 3 turns to cast it, or 3 seconds to cast the spell, you've got to be standing there for 3 seconds for 3 passes, and then you get to cast the spell. That's what something like the spell speed or the weapon speed was trying to do, but arguably didn't. Zero Theory says, I think it's about rewarding characters that are keen and react more quickly instead of hesitating in combat. And there was one game, instead of hesitating in combat, I think that's an important one, because I think was it Dungeon Crawl Classics that actually gave the fighter the initiative bonus? which seems to make sense because this is about knowing what to do in combat. And so instead of the thief or something because of their high dexterity or something like that, it was like, hey, this is the person who actually knows what to do in combat. They get to go first. Zero Theory says, ye who acts first kills first. Right, which is what you should be trying to... Right, yes. MERP. Oh, Charlie Garden. I was thinking about MERP. I was thinking about MERP when I was talking about more tactical RPGs. I was thinking about MERP. JDM says, you can decide who goes first. You can hold your action. I just home rule that you can hold your entire turn, including movement. David62 says, old school ranged weapons first, then melee, then spells. If range has 2 or more attacks, second attack last. If range has 2 or more attacks, second attack last. Roll once per encounter on a d6. Lowest is fastest. Add weapon speed. It is old school. Currently working on initiative system. So that's the chainmail way. We ought to look at chainmail on this. I'm sure we can get a PDF of it. Hey, if you're here, everybody, please do like and subscribe. I always forget to say that. But if you have been brought here by the algorithm, please do consider subscribing to the channel. We're here on the Morning Grind every morning talking about, well, we've been mainly talking about RPGs. So please do subscribe. And if you're here, please do hit the like button too. JDM says, I think the spirit of initiative in 5e is your physical response to a trigger, assuming everyone wants to physically act. Who is quick enough? It's essentially a quick draw scenario, which is why it's tied to dex. Actually, we're going to need another day on this, aren't we? We got the darkness. Oh, no. So this is, then we go to the adventures. So GM's eyes only. I'm going to scroll past that just to see how much we've got. Okay, so actually, I guess we're not. Okay, so we've got 2 days on this because we're not going to look at the stuff that's for the GM's eyes only. So let's actually do finish this today. Looks like we had darkness and then a conclusion. So let's do this. GM style. Here we go. No, agreed. Here we go. The darkness. Grimdark. Part of capturing hardcore mode is the tone of ravenous, deadly story set in dire circumstances. At first, you may conjure scenes of demonic fire, ripping gore fiends, or hellish fires sealing the flesh of the foolhardy. You might imagine black forged chains, skeletons in heaps, or horned helmets marching to annihilate the world of men. Nope, that's metal. The darkness can be far more elusive. It involves stitching together convincing tension, evoking noble sacrifice, balancing the realistic with the supernatural, and placing the heroes at the epicenter of an all-too-mortal struggle against the immortal odds from darker dimensions. True darkness in a game lies more in an empty cemetery than a burning hellscape. It hides in the dark, dead trees, empty towers, forgotten cabins, and cold canyon air. Be subtle, be detailed, and seek evil in small places. An unexpected but essential component to all of this is humor. Not humorous themes or silly. I thought this was actually going to be about the darkness and sort of like talking about don't letting people see in the dark. This is different. An unexpected but essential component of this is humor. Not humorous themes or silly names in your game world, but humor outside the world between you and your players. Without humor about dark themes, the overbearing tone becomes melodrama and even sillier than metal. The wicked comedy and sinister hatred in this. See wicked comedy and sinister hatred in the same scene. Feel the wet bark ooze with blood. Whatever it is, it's watching. The darkness. The stakes. If blood and horns aren't enough to conjure true darkness, what is? A big part of getting actual dread at the table and heightening the suspense on those capricious dice rolls is the exact nature of what is at stake if the players should fail or give up. Here are some primers to put you in the hardcore mind space. A dead king. Have you ever killed a king? I mean to. Thing is, he's already dead. All of these lands have fallen into shadow. A pox without end. Death on leather wings, my knight. All the work of our dead king, and I mean to end it. They never sleep. Her lust is infinite, and as long as she walks free, the dead cannot die. They simply lay there, blinking, groaning, muted mouths filled with wet muck and worms. Guilt and leverage, the hideous things you and your group have done, all in the name of fog of glory and youth. Now the dead want their due. Can you end the nightmares and clear your soul before your minds rot with regret? Children in snow. Dreamwalkers have no appetite for the full grown. They prey on the young, leaving their hollowed corpses in the ice. Most don't even believe they are real, but you know better. You are the reason they're here. Okay, let's go down here. In conclusion, we are stronger together. After every great session, there's a moment of glow. We sit together at the table, feeling that sleepless rush of what we just accomplished, or survived, or endured. Our dreams are filled with next chapters, our character sheets tattered and scribbled upon. The GM has one more beer, finally able to breathe. This is the essence of our hobby, and nothing else. This seemingly obvious truth deserves saying. Any force that divides us, or places barriers in the hobby, or claims unassailable truth, or puts down any style of play, or disrespects those that give respect, is of no use. Our hobby belongs in every respect to every single one of us. For my part, I am constantly amazed at the diversity, kindness, imagination, and innovation of my players and GMs. There is simply too many to list, so I tip my helmet to the empty waves and set sail on another adventure. Never lose sight of it. We are stronger together. Thanks for reading. Strength, honor, and beer. Harkin Finarel. So we do have the 5e hardcore mode character sheet. Right here. So initiative, hit points, injured, place for injured, temporary hit points, death, saves. Hardcore mode. This is like our quick guide right here. Hit dice. So remember, we've got roll 1 hit die at each level and add maximum HT, no con modifier. Injured, what it means to be injured. Death. I was thinking about injured actually yesterday after we had looked at it. We'll see. Death, Zymar's Candle, skilled, unskilled, agreed initiative. All right, so that is it. Let's look at what's going on over here. I like the basic and old school casters, ranged, thieves, melees, two-handed melees. Cord says, I think I have a free chainmail PDF from way back someplace. Make sure it's a... is it an authorized one? Daniel says, a bit behind the curve, but I've seen using a lower die, like D12, and the bonuses are weighted more. Is that you're talking about for initiative? Now, see, that's one thing you could totally do if you're worried about the increase in randomness, is not use the D20, is use some other kind of die. And actually, I think that Hackmaster does something like that, or that if you are surprised or whatever, your starting initiative, the die you use can change. And you want to go on lower numbers because lower numbers is faster. So if you're trying to reduce the random element, you just use smaller dice. You could, now if you're rolling a D20 or a D12, you could still roll really low. Okay, good for you. You rolled really low, but the possibility is that you'd roll much higher. JDM says, if you keep, or no, Ulysses says, if you keep your action while initiating, that's why, what's the point of rolling initiative in the first place? Just let them decide which order they take, and you skip all that organization. Tomocrat says, I say that I will hate Rollmaster mechanics, would call it Rule Master. I had some friends who loved Rollmaster. I said that before. I've gotten to play Rollmaster with before. We had a good time with it. They really enjoyed the system, and they knew how to play it and stuff like that. Place enemies' order in between their actions, or just say the goblin stares at something in the environment so hard that he misses his turn. You don't need to act all creatures in a turn. Maybe add trophy to the list to look at. It's a grimdark setting that's play to lose. Everyone eventually dies. JDM says, what's the point in Constitution if it doesn't contribute to HP? It's used so infrequently aside from that. I've never been a fan of removing the con modifier from HP. So the con modifier does add to rest. Right. In short rest, expend hit dice as normal, rolling each to determine the HP guest in rest and safety. Now, of course, I'm not a huge fan of the Dungeons and Dragons stats anyway, so I hear you there. But Wait, didn't con modifier get you back? I think it did. Hang on, let me check that. Let's see. No con modifier applies to no rerolls, no max outcomes. It's possible to have 5 HP at 5th level. When recovering, hardcore mode offers 3 ways to use hit dice. Okay, I guess I'm thinking about Knave then. These things run together. In short rest, expend hit dice as normal, rolling each to determine HP regained in rest and safety. So I would allow the con to be put there. Knave was doing that. Medical aid. When non-magical medicine, bandages, or tinctures are used, roll 1 hit die without the need to expend it. In combat or danger, make a con roll against DC 10. If successful, expend 1 hit die and roll to recover that many hit dice. So con is allowing you to recover in combat. But maybe pull over the Knave rule and let Constitution modifier add to the number of hit points you get back. Not your maximum total, but the number of hit points when you heal. JDM says, I think a better solution is not gaining HP at every level, maybe only on even levels. And I like I was saying that I don't have a problem with hit points. I do have a problem with inflationary hit points. This could solve it. Or, you could gain, if you're going to roll, you could say, the Hackmaster says, okay, you roll your die on first level. Then on second level, you roll your die. But then on third level, you got to remember, you got to write down what your second level roll was. Because you roll again at third level. And then if you roll higher than your second level roll, you get to replace your second level roll with your third level roll. If you don't, it just stays. Okay, so they're out there. Okay, thanks, Carl. Maybe let reflex enhanced characters go first and then use popcorn for somebody else. As normal seems to include con as normal for 5e. Oh, hey, Inner Light. Good to see you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so I guess that was it. Oh, I'll tell you what. So, well, no, we'll call it right here. I've got to go and do things this afternoon. So I really enjoyed this conversation. This was a fantastic conversation again. I really like these that generates conversation. So I guess I will put together, I want to go ahead and put together the thumbnail, and I guess I can pass around that we're going to be, pass around online that we'll take a look at that Shadow Dark starting tomorrow and see what it takes to get into it. I'm excited about that. I'm glad there is something to look at. So we will do that, and who knows? Maybe that means that we should. I've got to back it, but maybe that means that some people will decide to back it. They probably hit $1 million by now. All right, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic and productive day. And until I see you tomorrow.